In the heart of the state-of-the-art, at the dawn of the next stage in entertainment, you found no proscenium.
You have indeed found No Proscenium, the voice of everything immersive. I'm your host, Noah Nelson, and welcome to episode 389. This week on the show, we chat with Terence Leclere and Dasha Kittredge, two of the three heads of Meta For You, the boutique actor-led immersive firm that works on marketing activations all over the country and is based here in LA. Immersive heads in LA know Terence and Dasha from many a play here in town, so it should come as no surprise that the conversation to follow goes long on talking about acting in the art of immersive, often in the context of a brand activation, aka the thing that pays so many performers' bills. In other words, it's a cozy chat with some friends this week here on the pod. Before we get into it, a big thank you to everyone we saw at last weekend's Imaginaire Duels, the kooky concepts club for creatives from Brett Jackson's live action attractions. It was a very fun and funny time. I had a blast watching the lot of you pitch your ridiculous ideas for zoo, but open concept, and I'm looking forward to whatever the next batch of chaos brings. Brett puts on a great show, and honestly, y'all are the show, so you put on a great show. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Look for notes when the next one is coming. Now, if you're in San Diego for Without Walls Festival this weekend, I'll be running around on a tight schedule this Saturday, literally like in at 11 a.m., out at 11 p.m., driving to LA back and forth. Woo! But if you see me, say hi. Just know I may not be able to talk. And do give me a heads up via socials if you're going to be there so I can be on the lookout for you. On the site this week, no rundown, but a long-form feature about Colorado's Paralysis Immersive and their immersive horror production, Omega, from our Denver correspondent, Danielle Look, and a short interview with one of the board members of the Black Immersive Creators Grant, the deadline for which is April 30th. That's this Sunday. And yes, I won't let an episode pass without reminding you that the next stage Immersive Summit is coming up in just over a month. There's still time to get your badge and join the next great gathering of the immersive creative community as they come to Los Angeles for 3 days of dinners, salons, talks, panels, and forging bonds, some of which will last a lifetime. Not only do we have guests from Riot Games, Meow Wolf, Moment Factory, Games for Change, the Royal Shakespeare Company, and La Jolla Playhouse, amongst others, but we've got badge holders coming from pretty much all the big names in immersive. I shouldn't tell you who they are because I don't have permission to. But if you're like, well, these people do, yeah. Oh yeah. So many. After 3 years of planning and a pandemic that tried to hold us down, you'll want to be here when it happens. Look to the site for more information soon and for a booking link with our hotel partner, the Ace Hotel in downtown Los Angeles, just 2 blocks from the historic Herald Examiner building, which now serves as the campus for Arizona State University's California Center, our venue for this year's summit, thanks to the folks at ASU's Herberger Institute for Design and the Arts. Don't let yourself feel the FOMO. Be the source of the FOMO instead. June 2nd through 4th at the next stage. Finally, a shout out to our latest backers on Patreon, Frank Warren and Marcy Hume, who are keeping us on the right side of our $3K a month goal. Thanks to them and to all our Patreon backers, I've survived another month, and looks like I'll be surviving next month too, which is why I sound happy for once. In an era when there are big media cutbacks left and right, nothing in the landscape is certain, which is why it means so much that so many of you back the pod and the site. Remember, as little as $2 a month at patreon.com/noproscenium not only powers the podcast and websites for NoPro and everything immersive, it also gets you into our member-only Discord. If you're already a backer, drop a review on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice and share the articles you find useful on your social media platform of choice. It helps immensely. We are always No Proscenium, except on Insta, where we are no_proscenium. As always, big thanks to our sustaining backers, Samuel Mustry, Chris Woolman, Samantha Davison, Eric Shamlin, Elaine, Daryl, John Boulette, Jay Bushman, Jerome Joseph Genties, Tom Leonetti McGuire, Winthorne, Ryan, David Bassick, Richard Ayers, Lonnie Hanson, Leclerc the Cool, the Ministry of Peculiarities, and Jan Budman. We're also on the lookout for community partners who are up for working out special deals for our backers. Hit me up at noah@noproscenium.com for details. It's been 5 minutes of this and change. Let's get into the show. Joining us today are Terence Leclere and Dasha Kittredge, who are familiar faces on LA's immersive theater scene, both with acting resumes as long as your arm. But they're here today to talk about Meta for You, the company which of late has been working on both coasts, doing casting and more for immersive activations, and today they're going to tell us just how that works. Hey kids,
Hi.
good to have you here.
Hello, Noah. What's up?
Hey.
Yo. Terence, let's start with you.
Yes.
What is Meta for You and who's all involved?
Meta for You, effectively, is a consulting firm that provides immersive interactive services via talent, content, and consultation. I'm its founder and CEO. Dasha Kittredge is our creative director and often heads up our streamlined casting process. And Carly Blair is our managing director, and she also handles our dramaturgy, depending on research needs for each project. So that's the core team. But depending on the scope of each project, we also do bring on additional specialists and leads, coordinators as necessary. And of course, huge shout out to our ever-growing network of immersive actors, performers, immersive persons who we are so lucky to know and work with. So we are a uniquely actor-led entrepreneurial effort that's focused on improving guest interactive dynamics.
So how did this get started? Because y'all are actors. Carly's also an actor. And you mentioned, this is a very entrepreneurial effort. And I'm just kind of looking from the outside and seeing there's all kinds of, I guess maybe let's start with that. Like, what are some of the activations that you can talk about that you kind of worked on to give people a sense of scope and scale? Like, what have you been up to lately?
Yeah.
Has it been popping back and forth between New York and here, and I'm always just like, where are they now?
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, I'll take it back a little bit to like our first podcast together, Noah, back in 2018, I believe. That's when, the LLC was formed. And before that, we were, acting immersive theater, lots of shows during the golden age of LA DIY immersive shows. And I was doing also a lot of live typewriter poetry, right? So I was typing poems, and I was telling Dasha, like, we noticed how like that specific thing, there's a formula there, right? There's like it's an interactive station. What this means is like, okay, person with a typewriter typing poems for guests, it could be distilled to an immersive interactive experience that is rewarding. And the elements of it are, you've got somebody at a typewriter, which, at the time was more kind of out of place than now. Maybe everyone has typewriters, I don't know. But you would see somebody with a typewriter, so that would pique, and this is an open world setting, this would pique the audiences or the guests, the party goers' interest, and they kind of come up and say, what's going on here? Then you would have onboarding, and then you would have a one-on-one, basically. You'd have a moment where the audience talks to the person writing poems, and has this moment of where the audience can feel seen and heard, and really get that sense of presence and that they matter, which is at the crux of all our favorite immersive one-on-ones, right? And then afterwards, a poem gets written, and it's reflecting the answers to the questions that were during the one-on-one, and the guest audience member participant gets to walk away with a poem, which is a memento of the occasion. So It's just really wild because like within all those bits, you have the crux of uh, one of the main services, like via consulting and talent that we provide for all these big agencies, which is having an element of all of these things, but at the very core of it, having those moments of um, guides who welcome audiences into a new moment to moment reality where they get a sense of playfulness, presence, and feeling clever, right? So, and it's ironic because now with ChatGPT, you could probably, that mechanic of writing a poem is like, can probably be taken care of but from that. But what ChatGPT and AI hasn't quite mastered yet is that feeling that when humans are together, there's that energy exchange, and within the hands of a skilled immersive actor, there's even more the possibility of having the audience member feel like they were given a chance to be present and really be heard, seen, acknowledged, validated. And that is what we try to instill in all our activations, whether they're for launch parties, or whether they're for TV, film. That's really what's at the heart of all of this. It's funny because we're on Zencaster now and I can't see either of you. So it feels like I'm talking into a void, but I feel your presence and the intention is there to connect with you. And sometimes, like in VR, that's all you get. But yeah. Did that answer
Yeah, I
your
mean,
question? That
I
kind of took
mean,
us back to 28 a
yeah,
little bit.
no, you kind of got to into the origins, and you got into sort of the heart and the soul of it,
Mm,
right? And and what's interesting, of course, with like both of you is like, you've done the live, you've both done, the VR, right? You were both part of the Under Presents,
mhm.
and you've done these marketing activations. Dasha, maybe we'll turn to you for a second here, because I know you've done some creative direction of late with some of these bigger properties. I don't know if what you guys can't talk about exactly, but what's the approach you find yourself taking, dealing with something that is already an established piece of IP, already has a agency who've done a lot of the creative, who've brought the client to that point where they're bringing you guys in to execute on the live part of it. um how is that different from doing a piece of immersive theater or strapping on an Oculus and beaming yourself into South by Southwest?
Hmm.
Yeah, no, it can be quite a difficult balancing act because a lot of the time we aren't even able to watch the episodes of that show that is premiering that we're promoting. So, and just because of the nature of the legal going on and just that they can't show it to X amount of people or people that are subcontracted out, um, sometimes we're able to kind of see the whole picture of the story that we are promoting, and then sometimes we can't and we're just able to get some bits and pieces. And then I typically have like a list of things that I ask about, what are things that we shouldn't say. Where are the boundaries then? How can we find the room that we are going to be working within story wise as well? So that leads to sometimes, well, always having to cast very good improvisers
Hmm.
that then, if they're kind of being asked or grilled questions by a super diehard fan and the immersive performer literally does not know the answer to the question because they have not been allowed to watch the first episode of the show, as um, happens, more frequently than you might expect. There's a way to bring it back to the playful circumstances of what is going on in the world right there that has been created for the activation and what the action is that's going on. So I think it is truly a challenge to coordinate and give permission to your actor, but not too much permission to then make up storylines or narratives. And there are certain things that you definitely don't want to do in those kinds of circumstances with a very specific and protected intellectual property. So yeah, it's very different than a play where, like, you've read the whole thing, you know it inside and out. You can ask the director many questions. So sometimes we're kind of being these translators, where we have been able to see something and watch the episode, but then our cast isn't. So it really depends on the piece that we're doing, and just always asking more questions than less questions to our personal higher ups on the activation is, never assume that it's okay to improv around something with an IP. It's just better to ask and get real specific with how to take these kind of vague gray areas and bring it back to what the focus was for the actual activation.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you guys have to like do that in front of the people who actually made the thing, right? Like, has that been, so like you've got this like job of you translating the vibes of a show into something live, and then no pressure, the director and writer are coming through in 5 minutes. Well,
by
the way,
there's a great example of that was working with Campfire, who are amazing and brilliant. We did the Hunters experience in Highland Park, and
I remember that one.
Yeah, that was a great example of like, not only was the IP sort of not to be used, like the trick is a big pitfall with immersive, right? It's just like with branded activations, it's like, oh, let's have the characters from the show there. It's like immediately that's just more and more people understand how problematic and not fun for anyone that can be sometimes. But so especially for this IP, which was Hunters, which is a show about Nazi hunters. So there was like, first of all, we couldn't really, to an open world, because there's people walking down the street, couldn't really mention what the subjects of the show, because out of context, there's
you just gonna run around and scream about Nazis?
Yeah, exactly.
In the middle of Highland Park,
right?
On a Saturday night in front of the movie theater.
Yeah, it
wow.
might be a tad bit triggering.
Yeah,
yeah. So it's so exactly. So
very confusing and disturbing, I think, is what it would have been.
That's exactly it. And
a very active night that night.
Yeah. So like, I know that was wild. No. That's part of what we consult is immersive blind spots like that, where it's like, look, the audience doesn't have your script or context, so they're not necessarily going to be exactly on the same page with you, and they're possibly not going to find that Easter egg immediately, like somebody who has all the context of a script. But in this case, this was really cool because, and again, that's a testament to Campfire's brilliance. We were creating the scene, which was like the collateral, or the just the peripheral scene of like what that the vibe of being in New York in '77 would have been like, right? So we don't touch the subject matter, but the theme of the subject matter, right, is the first episode, which is what the audience got to see. It's basically, you could distill it down to, there's a kid, and he wants to do something. This is super watering it down, and he joins this group of people who allow him in so that he can do that thing, right? Super distilled. And so what that experientially looks like for somebody who knows nothing more, it's like, we have these characters, all of them are in, they're all together, they're all on the same team community kind of, they're what am I trying to say, they're all part of the same gang or something, they're all like part of the same group,
right?
And as audiences come through, they've given the audience member a chance to sort of join the group, and once they were in with the group, they'd be like, okay, you're in with me, you're in with these people, you can go talk to this person, that person, etc. And it's so funny because this is also like what we consult about is just what translates experientially to audience members. Very often, it's so different than theater. It's almost like the word theater shouldn't be used anymore in that sense. And I know we've talked about that, about how funny it is it was David Bassick actually who said it's funny that the word theater is used for plays because you don't go to a sport and say stadium. You know, I'm going to see Stadium tonight, right? But anyway, tangent. It's more than theater. Experiential events are much more about play and much more about audience discovery in the sense that less is more oftentimes. You have a group of people that look intriguing, much like the typewriter station. In this case, they were people dressed like New York 70s types. They're intriguing. The audience comes up to them. So the actor then onboards the audience member and makes them feel welcome, makes them feel seen and heard. Like, I see you, you're with us now. And then invites them to the adventure. And then they can explore afterwards with these feelings of being welcomed. And that's plenty, you know, that's, it doesn't need to be like, okay, the year is New York 77. You are this, and I am this, and this is this. This is like, oftentimes, I feel like as humans, that's just way too much information. There's the immediacy of play of just like, okay, I'm working a malt shop. You're walked into my malt shop, so here's a milkshake. You know, that's a terrible example, but um, that's
It's only terrible because now I want to.
yeah, it's a delicious example. Is actually
right?
yeah.
Stop
The immediacy of
describing in detail a milkshake.
Yum. Okay, so it's a strawberry milkshake, and it's the year is 1950.
Oh, okay, now I'm down.
But you see what I mean? Like, right? You just
strawberry. You lost me at strawberry. So
okay,
we're good. I'm
well, there
okay
you
now.
go.
So,
I mean, that's immediately the audience will be with you, or you'll lose them, and so meeting the audience is also what we instill to all our performers. You got to meet people where they are, because everyone's going to be coming at you with different things. Just like there's a book, Richard Boleslavsky's First 6 Lessons. He says an actor has to have the concentration to command everyone's attention in the theater, no matter what their day was like. And I think as an immersive actor, you do that, but it's on a one-to-one basis. Like, you repeat the process multiple times with each seat, with each audience member, which is very exciting and fun. Oh, and the fun of meeting people where they are is beyond actors. And we can talk a little bit about that. And I'll pass it on to Dasha about this. But like, a really fun thing that we do, like, for instance, hunters, a lot of those positions were traditionally brand ambassador positions, right? So people in a t-shirt handing out samples. And as we all know from passing people who hand out flyers on the street, that it's an old paradigm that doesn't really work anymore with audiences. Audiences are almost trained to avoid that. So instead, we reactivate it by having the brand ambassador be like these meta brand ambassadors, meta in the sense of like big picture, where they can step in and out of world depending on a case-by-case basis with each guest. So let's say the guest comes in and they have a fragile grip of reality, and they're like, this isn't the 70s, this isn't New York. And then those brand ambassadors can playfully be like, hey, you're very astute. That's true. It's an activation for a TV show by Amazon Prime. But if somebody wants to play along, then the same actor can play along with them. And having that fluidity of being able to play is at the core of the experience. Because once you establish that connection with the audience member, with the person, then you can take them anywhere. But first you need to have that connection. So yeah, that's the thing we love working on.
It's interesting that, yeah, that made me realize that, you know, there's a range where sometimes they really want a differentiation between the brand ambassadors and the immersive performers. Sometimes they want a fluid mix, like Terence is describing, someone that can, you know, facilitate and answer questions about the premiere date or the IP itself, but then also be maintaining the world that has been created. So it really depends on the creative team that has designed the activation. So sometimes it is imperative that the immersive actors, or what did you call them, Terence? The play facilitator,
yeah, sure,
in world building entities, that they are actually just holding the circumstances and are committed to the circumstances and don't break that no matter what, because it has been designed that that will really break the experience. And in those positions as a performer, honestly, the more committed the immersive actor is, the more permission the audience receives to play at that high level that the actor is offering. And sometimes, if you're reading an audience member that seems kind of maybe uncomfortable, or like, they're not an actor, or they're just kind of maybe not comfortable speaking in front of small groups or large groups of people, and there can be kind of a desire to maybe stoop down to that audience to kind of break world, to help them be more comfortable. But in my opinion, you're doing the whole world a disservice by doing that, and the brand a disservice by doing so. And if they're confused, you can clearly tell them who they are and what we're focusing on, what to do, what the task is at hand, and be very clear. And sometimes that immediately helps get them into, oh, okay, and it clears up the confusion. But I do think that I see a lot of success where there is this kind of commitment of not breaking, and then a separate team perhaps that, because we cast both brand ambassadors, hybrid immersive actors, brand ambassadors, or a brand ambassador plus kind of position. So anywhere on that spectrum we could offer, and we do, and we have cast 2 separate teams sometimes, or one team that does both. But it is important to communicate that to our team, so that people know they want to be directed as an audience. They want to be able to know what to be clued into, to how to play this game. What am I doing? Am I roaming around, or do I have something to actually do here?
Yeah.
It's interesting. You said like people want to be directed, right? Like that. I just zeroed in on that thought you had right there. Like people want to be directed, because it sort of implies that when someone's in this kind of brand ambassador plus scenario, they're one part actor, one part sales associate, one part director, because the audience being participants, being interactors, need some side coaching to kind of get into the spirit of the play.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it's right on, because it's funny, just like what Dasha was saying, like if we advise on this, it's basically like the agency is making a commercial, right? And the commercial is like this national commercial. So you want to cast actors that are really just completely in line, because otherwise all the money you're spending on budget, on sets and everything, like it can so easily fall apart depending on your front line. And your front line are the people who will be welcoming your guests. Like it's just so important, and it is the cornerstone of these experiences, where it's having a person there, because they're the ones. It's kind of like, okay, so you think of marketing as the word of mouth marketing, best form of marketing. That's when your friend is telling you, oh, this is awesome, check it out. You don't even think twice, that you just check out that thing. So an immersive actor, somebody who understands interpersonal world building and who can direct themselves and also play and also just make the audience feel comfortable, someone like that has the power of just immediately assuming familiarity and becoming the person's best friend. And then after that, it's like, yeah, and I happen to have this thing. It's also like this saying we have called endow the swag, right? So it's like, rather than just be somebody in a branded t-shirt handing out like buttons for the TV show, this immersive actor becomes the best friend to the audience member, first and foremost. And then they're able to be like, look, this is rather than just hand them a button, which if you hand it like it's nothing, nobody's going to want it. It's like a flyer on the street. But if you endow it with story, with narrative, and with emotional context, all of a sudden it becomes this life-changing thing. Like for The Last of Us, we knew this was an IP that for 10 years, people were playing this video game and just completely immersed, right? They were just in this video game, just hours upon hours. And it's such a big part of their life that we couldn't just, hand out some of these pendants that say you're a firefly. It's got so much more significance than that. And having immersive actors that understand that and making a moment out of it, all of a sudden the people just said, you have no idea how much this means to me. And they feel seen for all these hours that they played the video game and how much time they devoted to um, the brands. It's really a chance to honor each individual on a one-to-one basis about their commitment to each brand. So that's why it's so important. Anytime there's a person there at your event, that's an opportunity to like leverage that best friend factor of just having somebody, not BS you and just be there with you and just be open with you. And that goes to meeting the
Yeah,
actors.
and giving gifts back. Yeah, like you're saying with that. I mean, this when the super fans for whatever we're promoting come in and they're dressed in, in character or with, a t-shirt from that movie or show franchise. I mean, it's a wonderful experience to see the just huge childish grin on that person's face when there's this inner knowledge of this is someone that really knows this story or this world, and to play with them and invite them. They when an intellectual property and a immersive cast, they cohesively deliver this playful opportunity with a fan like that and kind of masterfully make a spontaneous feeling moment where this fan is being able to become part of the world and really feel like they are part of it in that moment. It's the IP saying like, we see you, you are important to us, you are why we have become important, we value you, we love you. And that back and forth love is it's really what it's about for at least marketing activations. It's like really fun to facilitate that, to be honest, and to and you are the best friend of that guest whether or not you're playing the villain. You're kind of everyone's tongue-in-cheek winking, keeping the circumstance but kind of having that let's play pretend, let's do this right now. That's when it really gets hit out of the park versus just kind of, okay, we have to do this thing so that people know about when it premieres and something like that. And it takes a really trained performer to read people properly, and to facilitate that kind of magical vibe and to hold the circumstance strongly and not letting it waver, even if there's a heckler in a group trying to break the world.
Let's drill down into that for a quick second, and then I want to pop in for the business layer. So this idea of reading the audience, is that something that you came, preset into this world doing, or is that a skill that you feel you've developed over the years of being here in the immersive trenches?
So interesting. We both have different stories about this, I'm sure. Dasha, do you want to go?
I mean, I definitely think it's a learned skill, because even if you're an improviser and you do, I mean, I did some UCB training for improv, but that's very different than improvising with a non-actor that isn't expecting perhaps to even have to speak. So
you don't know that this person wants to like take center stage, right? And like start driving the scene. So it's a very different dynamic.
Right? A great training ground. I think I gave them a shout out last time we did the podcast too. So I did murder mystery shows for like years, and so and consistently, like every week. And that's a great gym to kind of work out that muscle of cold approaching people and just reading people and really meeting people where they are. Because you can see as a human, you can tell like when somebody's like, that person is not into it, and this person can't wait for me to talk to them. And just having that understanding, it's almost like a skill that any immersive actor that's done, well, first of all, any immersive actor that's done a show has like the under their belt, that practice of just saying text directly to somebody and taking in their reaction directly. So having that under your belt helps generate this kind of empathy for your audience that translates to that kind of reading, right? But more so if open world, like more specifically, if there's like been open world experiences that they've done, where you have to engage and you have to cold approach people. That will teach you right away. And it's so funny because I want to kind of go back a little earlier about like, what Dasha was talking about, and the reverse of that. And this is what a lot of companies sadly don't get. And this is where we help them point out those blind spots, is you'll have this amazing set, but then you'll leave like your staff as an afterthought and then just kind of like, oh, I guess we need event staff. So how about these guys, right? The problem with that, and this is actually kind of an origin story of like why I wanted something like Meta for You to exist, was that there was this brand activation that that I did years ago, right? Like long before Meta for You, where it was very clever, very creative, but it required a lot of cold approaching, right? And it would have worked if the right people were cast. If the right people were cast that had that sort of immersive actor thing of just like, I understand there's no stage, there's no fourth wall protecting me. I got to be in there. I got to be in it, and I got to roll with it. And it's like theater Aikido, where it's just kind of like whatever comes at me, that becomes the show. It really is a skill developed from doing lots of immersive theater. So there was a great idea. It was a great idea that they did, but they sadly cast a lot of people that I'm not sure where they got them, but it was a lot of people that when it came to the moment, they chickened out. And that it was just the worst. And I could see like the creatives being crestfallen, like, yeah, experiential doesn't work. And I'm thinking to myself, no, it does. It totally does. You just need the right people to jump in with you to bring it to life. Because otherwise, and that's the reverse of it, it's just you leave it last minute, you roll the dice. We're in LA. We're very lucky. There's amazing immersive actors that, are doing brand ambassador work everywhere. So you might get one of them and then you're lucky because they'll save your experience. But otherwise, you're rolling the dice, and you might have people who are just like taking it as a gig, and they're just kind of like chickening out, and they're like, oh, I don't want to go up to that person. They make me, like, I don't know. This is dumb. I feel dumb wearing this costume. You know what I mean? It's heartbreaking. And so really like one of the...
Yeah, a little bit of the, I'm a costume character.
Yeah, like...
selling, something.
Sure. And, I mean, if it's written that way, that's also thankless for the performer. So that's a twofold thing, because we're all performers, we understand what we'd be down to do and what we'd be really into bringing to life, right? And we're also that reverse of it, of just kind of like understanding what the job needs in order for it to come to life. Like it won't work unless you bring it to life. And that's where the magic happens. That was...
I can barely relate. I've never dressed up as a zip drive in
the zip
leotard and
so watch
San Francisco. That never occurred in my life.
So the zip drive experience could be something so much more fun. And it would begin with the zip drive just being honest with audience members, because that's the thing, is like you can't talk down to your audience. Like Second City, like always play at the top of your intelligence.
This technology causes clip death.
Yeah, well, exactly. Or just kind of,
I'm going to fail on you and you're going to lose all your files.
Yeah.
I'm Zippy, the zip drive.
Honestly, like that company with the zip drive, like might have, the dude or whoever's in there in that zip drive costume, if they were connecting honestly with people passing by, just being like, it's really hot in here, kind of like just connecting with the people. They knew. They would have
Terrence. They knew.
Right, email. Yeah, they would have a better chance of creating a long-lasting moment of truth on this godforsaken planet, of just people connecting and people being honest with each other and being like, I'm a human, you're a human. I'm a zip drive right now. You're a passerby. Isn't this all weird? But anyways, it was nice to meet you. If you need a zip drive, remember this, or not. I don't care. I'm boiling in here. You know what I mean? Like it's, I think approaching events on that angle for that zip drive experience, that could be a way to do it. But then again, it's a lot of uphill battle with that one, because it's already an old paradigm of just, hey, let's put someone on the street to interrupt everyone's day to try to sell them things, which is already like, that's an uphill battle. So we probably would have advised that company to do an entirely different thing besides the zip drive costume. Tangent done. All right, where were we?
I want to bend it back towards Dasha, because I kind of accidentally interrupted her there. You were talking about your experience, working improv, doing UCB stuff, and I got into that idea of, the audience in an improv scene, your partner's trained. You've got someone who has an objective, or if nothing else, has the desire to hog the spotlight, like a certain Zip Drive costume wearing host. But a normal audience member doesn't. And you we're friends, but like, having seen you at work in this mode for so long, you have a particularly adroit ability to just pull someone into the melodrama. And I'm wondering, is that a learnable power, or is it something that you've sort of, it just gets stitched together through experience?
I mean, I don't know if it becomes stitched together through film acting or through, regular stage theater acting. I think it is more coming from things like the hospitality industry experience that I had. I was a brand ambassador for like over 100 marketing activations as a brand ambassador. I was a host. I did hosting, and I've done a lot of things where you are speaking to another human being that is not an actor, and you are kind of making them feel comfortable. Maybe even like a stand-up comic would have some more of this natural, innate kind of sensibility than a film actor. I think a film actor is not going to maybe have that intuition of, that they're maybe going to take the circumstance and drive it home, versus saying, oh, okay, I see this look of kind of distance in my audience's eyes. It looks like I'm starting to lose them, and in that moment, a comedian might say, hey, you in the red shirt, to put them on the spot in an exciting moment way when they feel like they're losing that person or a part of the audience or something. There's something about this kind of experience of doing work where you're actually looking into the eyes of someone else that I think is developing it more than perhaps actor to actor performances that are kind of typical from acting training. So I think a lot of it came from that, to be honest. Also kind of knowing and understanding what marketing teams have in terms of what their, top line kind of high up, like what their metrics are for success versus failure in a event. So taking all those things and putting them together, you understand what the takeaway moment, or like kind of what the perfect idea of like what a person walking away from this would feel like and what they would have gone through. I'm not answering the question in a very succinct way. But I
well, you're in the right room then, Dasha. We're not doing a very succinct episode.
I thought that was brilliant. I mean, it's so true, because it's like
good.
Old acting teaches you to be presentational. So you can almost like fake it with another actor, and you're just kind of like, we're both on stage faking it. Haha. But like you can't fake it with the audience member. They won't let you. Or you can't fake it as a host, like as
no, that's true.
with another human. And why would you? There's an opportunity to connect. There's an opportunity to be like, man, here we are.
No, there's plenty of reasons. There's plenty of reasons to just phone it in. I mean, like, let's be real.
Sure.
We all got reasons to phone it in on any given day of the
week.
But that opportunity to not phone it in.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's the interesting thing that this affords.
Yeah, it's the opportunity to not phone. You're right, because you're absolutely right. And I don't know. I mean, maybe as I get older and older, I'm like, oh, every chance you get to do this, do it. Like, I don't know if, Dasha, if you approach shows that way, but it really is the sense of just every time you go, when we're doing lots of shows like theater, I just going in those moments, like, I don't know, I would go in there like I would never see the person ever again after, kind of thing. Like, it gets really emo, but like just having that level of reverence for the moment and the moment-to-moment reality you're creating together, and the honesty that gets generated there of just like, yeah, here we are, you are here. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and being honest in terms of if things are not exactly going
Mhm.
perfectly, if some alarm goes off or someone yells over this intimate moment that you're, having between, if it's a one-on-one, acknowledging that and making a joke about it, even if it's a serious circumstance that you were
Yeah.
in, is much better to kind of make the world feel real
Ugh.
suddenly, and like the interpersonal moment feel real. So, simple things also like asking questions to your audience, giving them opportunities, kind of reaching out the hand to have them feel like they're allowed to jump in there and say something or do something, or have a deeper sense of agency in the
Mm.
moment. Um, Taking an extra moment to look in their eyes, that a little linger of like split second longer can suddenly go from having this simple interaction to suddenly, oh, well, why do I feel so much more seen suddenly, just from a extra second of really looking in
I
someone's
know. And you're
eyes.
so good at
So
that, by the way. I just want to shout that out.
I'm also taking notes here for when I get back into the dating pool. Extra second
Immersive dating.
eyes. Okay, cool. No, Terrence, I'm cutting that. No. All right, we've gone down into the acting guts, which, shock and surprise, not me. But because I think the thing that's even more mysterious to a lot of the listeners of the show, be it the folks who are going to these or who are making or hoping to make, how do you guys get pulled in? What does it look like when you get tapped for one of these activations? Is it an RFP process? Is it just a text in the middle of the night, you up for some immersive? What does that look
I
like?
made a joke to Dasha that sometimes it feels like there's a desk and some new producer steps into it and there's a Post-it note with a phone number and it says call Terence. Because sometimes it really feels like that, where it's just like, hi, I'm supposed to call you or we're supposed to talk to you or something. I mean, that's a joke. Obviously, like, we're really fortunate to have such a like amazing group of people that we've worked with now that just like our work, and we work great together. I mean, part of the service that we do, this kind of jokingly, but we feel like we're project doulas sometimes, where this stuff's supposed to be fun and feel good and be effortless, and so bringing like an empowering, encouraging vibe works for the actors first and foremost, because that's the energy that's going to be out on the floor, is going to be that energy that is permeating throughout. But that also extends to production and to just how things happen, and having that feeling of we've got you is such a great feeling of just like, no worries, we've got you on this, we can help with that. So yeah, these are all things. So to answer your question more succinctly, yeah, Post-it note and also emails. We're lucky that we're just kind of like we
You're on speed dial, or speed
yeah, which
posting.
is really sweet,
Yeah.
and we're very grateful and fortunate for that.
So does that mean
but
like
it's true that sometimes we do have to kind of, sorry to interrupt,
No,
but
please,
it's true that sometimes we do have to kind of go over, what we have to offer and the nuance that we can, because sometimes in the companies that we work for, there are rotating staff that, one time we worked with one point person, another new point person has been told to contact us, but they have never worked on perhaps immersive before, and so there is sometimes, maybe the company is the same, but the relationship is new. So I think there is typically, I'd say with most of our contracts that we work on, there is a bit of kind of, reconnecting in a new way with this new person, and
a learning curve, new relationships each time.
Yeah.
So you guys aren't in, I guess, things as a corner of the industry, as a corner of advertising and marketing, at least from where you are sitting right now. You're not in the place quite where you're responding to RFPs. It's still
like requests for
pitches, a little more old. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, or request for pitches, request for
it's so
proposals. Like
funny.
it's not quite there
I
yet.
think, well, it's really funny because I don't know, like, we kind of have like a unique, fun place that we're in because we love working with people and we love boosting, like, uh, optimizing experiences is kind of our forte. So a lot of the people we work with, the agencies we work with, we're perfectly grateful for them to get the pitches and then work with them on it. Uh, because that way we get to focus on what we like, which is the interactive dynamics. For instance, we all know lots of amazing builders and set builders, designers, lighting, sound, all these people. And so it's not necessarily a direction we want to focus in. And I think when you're like pitching for a big project, you're definitely like executive producing this thing where you just have all the pieces in play. And I think part of Meta for Use charm and power is its ability to be fluid and help with any and all of the immersive interactive services via talent, content, and consultation. So it's kind of like it could be piecemeal, it could be just certain aspect of it, but first and foremost, consultation. I think we've become a trusted advisor in the sense that um, the people we work with trust us when we suggest, oh, you're going for this, you're trying to do this. I think we think that this might be the way to do that. That this would be more effective, and sometimes we have to do that on the fly, and we have to do that with joy, which is again that Project Doula thing, which is awesome because it's a holistic process to kind of bringing an event and party to life. If you're going to have, if we're doing the interactive dynamics, then we're helping have effective conductors of the electricity that's going to come through the event, right? So, um, focusing on that and whatever permutations it takes. Like Dasha said, sometimes they'll be like, oh, so actors, right? And it's like, well, yeah, actors, but the reason why actors is because they're your human hosts of your event that are going to be guiding your guests through. They're going to be your first point of contact. They're going to be the first person your guest looks for if they have a question about something, like and you could optimize that. It's an opportunity to for it to be a memorable moment versus uh an awkward interaction of just like, oh yeah, you know like we were discussing before. um
Yeah, I mean, we definitely will pitch and have been requested to pitch ideas, but usually there's already something that exists. I would say with typically when we are kind of brought into the mix, um, and then we're continuing to kind of pitch off of the initial concept. So it does happen, and then sometimes the referral that we got, it was just phrased that we're just staffing, and that's all we do, and so then. Um, the angle in which you came in and how you were referred, we have all these other skill sets, but if that's all they really need and everything else is figured out, then it's actually kind of getting in their way to be trying to pitch
mhm.
new ideas. So we really kind of pride ourselves that it is kind of a curated angle that we're coming from. We're kind of helping and curating what you need for this particular puzzle piece that we are kind of coming in to fit the
Yeah,
mold
and the
of.
seamlessness is like part of the magic trick. If sometimes people don't know and don't want to know, they're just like, make it awesome with the right people, and it's like, we got you, and they won't know that it's because of all the stuff we talked about just now. They'll just be like, oh, okay, it's because they know great actors. And I mean, yes, that's part of the answer, but more specifically, there's a lot more going on that might not be immediately noticeable. But in terms of pitches, what's really interesting is like, yeah, I mean, so shows like Best Night Ever and things like that, right? Like, um, we're both from the LA immersive scene. Site specific one-on-one stuff is I mean, I don't know, it's my favorite thing in the world. Um, and so in terms of like pitching stuff, yeah, that happens more maybe like on a creating shows and stuff, rather than for the big brand IPs, that we like working with the bigger agencies on those. For doing our own shows, that's something else. Activating spaces, we love that, site specific. And also just consulting in places that you wouldn't necessarily think of as being some place that immersive interactive services could come into play. But like we've discussed many times, I mean, the word immersive means everything and anything, right? So it does now, and it basically, I mean, I feel like it just means being in the moment. You want your audience member to be in the moment. Okay, done. Interactive services, that's what we do. So that can be any event or any hospitality, any kind of place where there is interactive dynamics present. And how do you optimize those with doing that seamless magic that we do in terms of, like Dasha said about the eye contact, there's these little like secret techniques gleaned from years of performing in immersive theater that lend themselves so perfectly and so subtly to all these other places that people would never even think is a theatrical venue. But the world's a stage, especially with immersive. So that's really exciting, when getting chances to just boost and optimize events like that, where you wouldn't necessarily think, where you maybe like you might think like, oh, making it immersive would mean like bringing in a bunch of costume characters to do something wild with it, when really it can be much, much more subtle than that, to make the audience feel seen and heard in ways that they never would have thought of before. We love delighting and blowing people's minds like that.
Fantastic. Well, if people want to connect with you so that you can delight and blow their minds, how do they find
Post-it note.
Just leave a Post-it note on your own desk.
Yeah,
and
we'll
we
get
will
it. Yeah.
somehow magically get it.
Or, the website's good too. metaforyou.com. We like having it be the hub. So if you just kind of hit us up through there, we'll get it. And that's probably the best way to get in touch with us. We've crafted kind of over the years. This is our 5th year now doing this, which is awesome. Yay. Over the years, we've crafted a sort of secrecy to our work, which I think like a lot of the agencies we work with really like that. And so the people who know to look for us in that sense find us, and we become like a secret weapon in that sense of just kind of like, we'll be brought onto projects and we'll boost them from the inside.
But we've done a lot of small scale parties and events. We've done two real weddings. There are opportunities to create and facilitate this kind of work in unexpected places, unexpected events. So it's not just exclusively, brand activations.
That's the most noticeable, clearly. Yeah. Because it's a spectacle, and they're amazing and fun and awesome. But yeah, Dasha is totally right. That's there's so many opportunities in so many places, and it's and we approach every project from the audience's point of view first and foremost, and then we find all the opportunities for people to connect, because that's what it's all about, Noah, and that's what you, Dasha, and I are doing in this moment right now. We're connecting via Zencastr.
Fantastic. All right. Well, folks, check the show notes for the links to the website, or look and see if a Post-it note has mysteriously appeared in your car if you're driving while listening, or on your desktop computer. Until we meet again, or until I find a weird Post-it note somewhere it doesn't belong, Dasha, Terence, thank you both for being on the show this week.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you,
Noah.
So much.
Once again, I want to thank Terence and Dasha for being our guests here on the show this week. Check the show notes, not the Post-it note on your computer, check the show notes for how to get in touch with Meta for you. That also just popped. I'm sorry. I'm not going to take it out though. I see it on the waveform. I hope to see a lot of you at Without Walls this weekend. And yes, you probably have noticed like a brightness in my voice because, yeah, we did survive another month. And we just got some sponsor pledges on the next stage, one of which I should be able to announce next week. It's pretty cool. Actually, maybe hopefully even both of them I get to announce next week. It's good to have that kind of level of support come in. And also means that it takes a little bit of the pressure off us as we go like, we got to sell these tickets. But we do got to sell these tickets. And there's so many people going to be at this thing from all over. And if you've been on the fence, just know no one does it like we do. So like, seriously, I mean it. Those who've been to events I've run know no one does it like we do. Others try. Oh, they try. And they don't. Oh yeah, no, I'm for real with this one. Another reason why there's brightness in my voice is because Blue Sky, which was like a Skunkworks project that Jack Dorsey of Twitter was making with some folks before they sold Twitter, and then Twitter got sold, and then like Twitter was like, we don't want you anymore, go away. And it's popping off this week, and it's wild. Sometimes unfortunately so, but nothing in the post-Twitter world has felt like Twitter until this, and I'm a poster at heart. Like, I really am. And I need that fix, and I've been getting that fix this week. AOC's on there now. Jake Tapper just followed me. It's wild. It's wild. And this is the part where you go like, oh, can I have a code? Yeah, I'm out of codes, man. So hopefully I'll get some more. I haven't been begging for them. I've been begging for them for other people who are cool, who I want to see their networks join. And it's still early days with this thing. There's only like 40,000 people on this thing at the moment before like the Twitterati showed up. And it's just, it's an interesting little, microcosm of what social media is and can be. And I could talk about it for hours, and I have been with people the past 2 days. And then late at night playing Jedi Survivor, which came out, and doing everything I can to get the Next Stage site updated. So coming back to that, you will now find a page about the workshops, which has 3 of the descriptions for 3 of the 8 workshops, but also the identities of all 8 of our workshop instructors, which, I'll go from top of memory right now. Michael Tara Garver, who many of you know, worked on Star Cruiser, whose career stretches back to Sleep No More. Scout Expedition Company of The Nest, they're coming through. Celia Pierce of Playable Theater and the co-founder of Indiecade has been looking to do her piece since the 2020. I think the 2020 edition. So we're finally getting that workshop. Jessica Crean's doing one on creativity. Marcy Campos and Tommy Haunton are doing a bit about prototyping. That's the one that theirs on. I'm not reading my notes. The Wild Optimists are doing one. Rachel Joy Victor is coming through to talk strategy, which is her speciality. I've lost count. I don't think that was all 8. I'm sorry. I forgot somebody. I could look at a thing. Could I look at No, I can't look at a thing. It's too late for me to look at a thing. Why did I do that? Because I want you to know, and because I'm excited. That's why. The summit's gonna be really special. Like I get so wrapped up in all of the production part of it and what's missing and what we need to do now, and like this gets the next step, and like where's the insurance cards and all that sort of stuff, and like, oh, where's our EIN? All of that stuff. just going through, like, that was my memory cache of like the last day. that I forget what it is we've put together. I look at the holistic of it, and we've gotten, I think, about just about half of the invited guests are up on the speakers and guests page right now. And just as I'm getting bios and headshots and I'm having time to do it, I'm putting more up there. So there's a whole bunch more. You'll see a bunch more probably like Monday, Tuesday next week, because I'm at WoW, because I'm running around, because I'm playing Jedi Survivor. Man, I need it though. I need it. And yeah, this is it's not, it's not what we were planning in 2020. It's not what we were planning in 2022. We're not doing the festival thing, yada, yada, yada. But that doesn't mean that other people aren't. And in the next week or so, you'll also see some folks who are putting up work around the time, and going to give, first shot at that to some of the festival, some of the summit goers. So, we ain't done yet. It's only getting better. You should come through. All right. Don't you want to hang? Don't you want to hang with us? All right. Enough of that. I got to get this thing up. And I gotta go work on the website. The associate producer of this podcast is Parker Sella. Music for No Proscenium is by Chris Porter of the Speakeasy Society and Solar the Podcast. Special thanks to Siobhan O'Loughlin for voicing our intro. Siobhan's going to be there. No Pro Podcast is written, edited, hosted, produced, and mixed by yours truly. I'm Noah Nelson. And until next time, I'll see you at the show.